After a little over 6 months since being removed, Cyberpunk 2077 has finally made a return to the PlayStation Store, and this is actually coming with a couple of interesting surprises. We knew the game was making a return. CDPR announced last week in a statement that it would be coming back today, and we saw how Sony was cutting off refunds for the game this passing Friday. But one of the first and very interesting things about the return that may stand out to a few of you is it's actually got a price decrease, as Cyberpunk 2077 on the PlayStation Store now is listed at $49.99. There's no indication anywhere that this is a sale or a limited time thing just for the return, but it looks like it is just the permanent price, which okay, that's not super surprising. Games get price decreases all the time. What is a little bit more surprising is that it is just $50 on the PlayStation Store. On GOG, the Microsoft Store, even Steam, it is still a full $60 game. Makes you wonder if one of the criteria for coming back to the store was actually lowering the price overall. It's definitely an interesting move. Or maybe the game in general is getting a price decrease and it's just not represented everywhere yet. Although in addition to the price decrease, this also comes with several warnings on the game before you purchase it. Right on the store page, the first line of the description is important notice. Users continue to experience performance issues with this game. Purchase for use on PS4 systems is not recommended. For the best Cyberpunk experience on PlayStation, play on PS4 Pro and PS5 systems. This was echoed in their Twitter message also, but even CDPR kind of mentioned this. In their tweet, they said Cyberpunk 2077 is now back on the PlayStation Store. You can play the game on PlayStation 4 Pro and PlayStation 5. Additionally, a free next-gen upgrade will be available for all owners of the PS version of Cyberpunk 2077 in the second half of 2021. As far as what actually spawned the return to the PlayStation Store, it's not really clear what was required for this return to happen. During a past earnings call, CDPR mentioned how on a high level, Sony had some criteria for a return and they were working towards that. We just saw the game get an update this past week that did lead to some more improvements with crashes as well as a few additional FPS on PlayStation 4. There's been a couple of great videos comparing these side by side. I'll link to this one in the description down below if you want to check it out. But you can see pretty clearly, even on a base PS4, you have a few extra FPS in general, and it's definitely sticking to 30 FPS more often. And one of the biggest changes we've seen overall since release is that the game is crashing a lot less often on PlayStation systems across the board. Even on PlayStation 5, there are a lot of crashing problems with Cyberpunk, and it seems like that is not perfect yet, but it is definitely way better than it was 6 months ago. With that said, this most recent update didn't really have any huge improvements, so although maybe there was a certain milestone as far as average FPS or number of crashes they were trying to hit, and that is the criteria for getting back in the store, there's been a lot of speculation that the removal from the store and this new label being put on the game is more so related to how CDPR actually handled the refund for Cyberpunk 2077. Right after the game had that initial and buggy release, CDPR said, "Finally, we would like everyone who buys our game to be satisfied with their purchase. We would appreciate it if you would give us a chance, but if you are not pleased with your game on your console and don't want to wait for updates, you can opt to refund your copy. For copies purchased digitally, please use the refund system of PSN or Xbox respectively." This statement and just the flood of refunds that came in the wake of it very much so made it seem like CDPR had contacted Microsoft and or Sony and had some kind of deal to enable these refunds. In reality, what we saw was a ton of people getting their refunds rejected because they didn't actually qualify for a refund on PSN based on the terms. This in turn kind of made Sony look bad, and many people believe it was as a result of this refund statement by CDPR and not really communicating well with Sony that 3 days later they removed Cyberpunk 2077 from the PlayStation Store and just offered flat out refunds to everyone regardless of criteria. So regardless of what you really think was going on in the situation, the game is back now. The game is in its best state thus far, but still has a long way to go. It's definitely not a perfect game, and if you look at some of the gameplay where it is hitting 30 FPS on a base PlayStation 4, there's definitely some concessions being made. The city looks a lot more dead, as well as some other visual issues here or there like pop-ins or texture loading, so it's up to you. But if you are interested in getting the game on PlayStation, although you can again buy it on the PSN Store, you could also just buy a physical copy for a bit cheaper if you don't mind waiting a couple of days for shipping. With that said, we still don't know much about the future of Cyberpunk. DLC is coming, but we don't know when, nor do we really know when the next major update is, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for all of that and make sure to keep you all up to date. As always again though, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.